I'm not in on the discussions, and I'm not sitting in the war room, and I haven't seen any plans. I don't expect to receive any calls to inform me. So the best that I can tell you is that we will do what we did the last time, only we will do it with greater gusto. We will pick some new targets on the assumption that based upon the intelligence studies of the last round, they're finding some new targets to attack. Somebody walks in and says, okay, boss, I've been back over these targets. We've gone through them. We put them through AI. We've analyzed them. We're confident now that we've got the right set of targets. In addition to most of the ones we hit before, we've now got these new ones. We think this is the answer.
大家好，欢迎来到本期视频。先来介绍一下背景啊。主持人叫丹尼尔·戴维斯，他是美国陆军退役中校，他亲自参加过伊拉克战争和阿富汗战争。2012年，他在阿富汗完成第2次部署任务后，美国就写了一封内部报告信，直接指出美军高层和文职领导人对国会和美国公众说的全是空话。他在报告中毫不避讳地指出，阿富汗战争正在走向失败。后来的事实也验证了他的判断。这份报告让他获得2012年讲真话奖，也让他一夜之间成为了华盛顿建制派眼里的刺头。更有意思的是，2025年川普政府一度想把他招进情报体系的高层，结果因为他公开批评以色列的加沙政策，引发巨大争议，任命在短短几天内就被撤销了。所以这个人性格极其鲜明，求真不迎合，不被利益收买，用他自己的话来说，就是无所畏惧，绝不妥协。他的节目风格也是这样的。嘉宾是退役陆军上校道格拉斯，他是西点军校毕业的高材生。1991年海湾战争，他亲自指挥装甲部队，策划了美军自二战以来最大规模的坦克遭遇战。后来他又拿下了国际关系博士学位，成为五角大楼级别的战略专家。他跟川普也很有渊源，分别在2020年和2024年，他曾2次被川普提名担任美国驻德国大使，虽然最终都因为各种各样的原因未能成行。后来他还是被任命为美国国防部高级顾问。是他因为明确反对川普的很多策略，目前也被决策圈边缘化了。这点视频里面他自己也有提到。道格拉斯上校的风格同样也很硬核，任何话他都能用最冷静的语气讲出来，逻辑缜密，气场很强，敢说真话，而且同样对华盛顿的腐败和无能毫不留情。他俩在美国军方那确实属于是头最铁，腰最硬，最敢说的组合。好话不说，我们来看正片吧。
One of the things that the Iranians want is they want us out of the Gulf. We have tried to encircle Iran. You know, after having encircled the Soviet Union, at least in terms of containment, we seem to think that that was the answer for everything. And so this containment strategy, which was never supposed to be hopelessly militarized, is now the preferred option. We've tried to surround Iran. We're talking about containing China, which is astonishing. If you look at the size of China and its population, its importance. By the way, if you could turn to that chart that I sent earlier today very briefly, there's something that Americans need to understand. You know, pushing up borrowing costs everywhere except in China. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that China is stable. China is the world's creditor now, not the United States. And China is becoming the global safe haven for wealth, not the United States. Just look at the lines, where they go. What does this mean to the bonds, the treasuries? It means that the yields are rising. They have to rise or you can't attract any investment. That's unsustainable. So quite frankly, I think regardless of what Trump does at this stage, we've seen the end of the petrodollar. That's done. We're going to see probably the yuan petro or the petro basket of currencies or something else, but the petrodollar is finished. That is a huge foundational stone for our prosperity in the world. And, you know, Americans need to understand that what we've done is destroy ourselves with this war. Whatever damage we think we've done to Iran, the long-term strategic damage to our country and to the rest of the world is far greater. Iran will survive. Iran will come back. There's no doubt about it. Just as Russia has survived and Russia has come roaring back. China is going to survive and China's roaring back. In fact, China is now the world's largest economy, not the United States. And we've made matters worse because we constantly seem to opt for the threats of military power, because that apparently is the only tool we've got left. Well, we threatened everyone with tariffs. That's backfired badly. I don't see that we benefited from any of that. This president is all about bullying and threats, and it's back to the Roy Cohn School of Business. Number one, deny everything, admit nothing. Number two, threaten everybody, attack all the time. And finally, whatever happens, declare victory, claim that you've got control, that you're in charge, and everything's just fine. When Trump is driven out of office as a result of all of this, and I think it's inevitable at this stage, he's going to be making the same speech on his way out. I'm great. Everything was better under me, and we've been wildly successful. Thanks. No thanks. He's finished.
And I have a little bit more breaking news now. The Pezeshkian, president of Iran, he has made a post on X, and he says the level of understanding and comprehension of the requesters from Iran regarding their presence in Islamabad is even lower than Trump's level of understanding and comprehension, ... That's all he says. He didn't say we're not going. He didn't say we are going. He just seems to mock those who thinks that there's going to be talks. I mean, that seems to be in line with other things we've heard. So it seems to imply, again, that there won't even be any talks. So there's nothing for Vice President Vance to go over there for. So we seem to be heading in a bad direction. I want to go down a path a little bit more in addition to what you just said there, which was profound and by itself economically should sound all the alarm bells to do what you suggested. But there's also the issue of the oil itself. First of all, the last oil tanker that left on February 27th before the war started has now reached its destination. Now the market has to burn through about 400 million barrels of release from very strategic reserves. And once that's through, then you can't have this, even this market manipulation that President Trump has genuinely been amazing at to keep it under or right around $100. That's running out because all of the props are going to come out, and there's a physical dearth of supply that you can't manage. And then that is turning into physical. These are in just the last day or two. Some of these today. Popular Airlines reduces air flights and cancels others until June 14th. Singapore jet fuels have doubled to an average of around 960 barrels so far in April compared to 182. LA, flights out of LA have been canceled due to high flight. That's just yesterday. So this is going to continue on. And you talked about the fertilizer issue, which then has compounding problems for harvest season. And then that means the food that's going to be over the remainder of the following year into 27. I mean, Doug, these are serious issues that are these compound problems are compounding by the day.
Well, it's been amateur hour in the White House and amateur hour on the Hill. None of these people have the intellectual or professional depth to do their jobs. That's the simplest explanation for the terrible position we put ourselves in. It's just that now the so-called curtain is being pulled back. The rest of the world recognizes us for what we are. We're not serious. We're not a serious country. And I'm afraid that that's the widespread opinion of us. And for Americans, what they need to understand, this is analogous to living in a house and watching one of your tenants in the house burn the other one half of the house down. And then the fire is put out. And everybody says, well, thank God the fire's out. At least we've got half a house left. And he says, oh, no, wait. I've got matches. I can burn the rest down. And people say, okay, well, if you think you need to, go ahead and do that. And that's what his supporters in the MAGA movement, whatever number are left, that's effectively what they're saying. Oh, I think it's great what he's doing. He needs to get those guys and kill them. And oh, my God. And, of course, most of these people have never pulled a trigger in their lives and never shot anything. Maybe Bambi, if that, but that's all. It's depressing, but that's where we are now. And I wish there was some good news, but I just don't see any. And, the fuel business is going to come home to hit us hard. We're going to have unrest in this country through most of the summer. All the usual suspects that were out there before will be out there again, only this time. I think you're going to see the citizenry that has been asleep and been trusting the words of people in Washington for too long also go out on the street. And I think that's going to be very rough.
Yeah, especially when those manifesting problems start occurring here and shelves are empty, prices for what's there is more than they can afford. Obviously, gasoline will be going up through the roof. That's when I think you're going to start seeing some of that stuff. But let me ask you just kind of on the near term here. I showed you this chart earlier that showed that we have more naval power in the region than we had even at the start of the war. There's more air power. We've been restocking missiles. And let's take a look at, this is what happened during the first 40 days. You see these are the attacks by U.S. and Israel against Iran. And so there was a considerable amount, caused lots of damage, at least anything above ground. And then you look at what the Iranians were able to do in response. And so it's obviously at a much lower rate, but it was sustained all the way through in large part because of the underground facilities, et cetera. And yet that limited stuff, this is what it had on our aircraft alone. All these are losses, either destroyed or damaged, et cetera. So the question is going to be now, if we go in, and President Trump is good on his word on this, and the one thing he has been good on is using military power. If this is true and there is no meeting at all, much less a successful one, then he goes back to the military. What can we expect then out of this additional firepower that's different from what we saw the other side, or the first half?
Well, first of all, I'm not in on the discussions, and I'm not sitting in the war room, and I haven't seen any plans. I don't expect to receive any calls to inform me. So the best that I can tell you is that we will do what we did the last time, only we will do it with greater gusto. We will pick some new targets on the assumption, and that's my assumption, that based upon the intelligence studies of the last round, they're finding some new targets to attack. And you remember that the key to all of these air and missile campaigns is very much the same. Somebody walks in and says, okay, boss, I've been back over these targets. We've gone through them. We put them through AI. We've analyzed them. We're confident now that we've got the right set of targets. In addition to most of the ones we hit before, we've now got these new ones. We think this is the answer. In other words, you put enough rounds out there, eventually you're going to hit something that counts. I don't think that works, and I've seen that happen before. It's back to World War II. You know, we bombed all sorts of things trying to destroy production. German production never slowed down. But what we did succeed in doing, and we never fully appreciated it until nearly the war was over, was destroy the fuel production and distribution system, because that was key to stopping the German army and the German Air Force. That was vital. And that did more to help the Soviets and their millions of troops reach Berlin than almost anything else we did. Now, I don't know what they're coming up with now, but I think they're going to have a tough time. As we've said before, Iran is a natural fortress. It's enormous inside. It's much larger than Germany was, much larger than Japan. It's the size, half the size of India, and that means the size of Western Europe. So the notion that you're going to find something now to hit that's going to change the outcome, I think, is unlikely. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the ground troops. My impression is that President Trump, giving credit for getting something right, even a broken clock is right twice a day, he seems to have objected to the use of ground troops. I don't know who is arguing for the seizure of islands in the Persian Gulf, whether it's Karg or Abu Musa or whatever the things they are looking at. Doesn't make any difference. I think it's a waste of time. I don't think it changes anything. I don't see how putting soldiers or Marines on the ground in these places is going to demonstrate that we control anything. It's not going to wrest control away from Iran. And Iran still has 45 to 50,000, I would say, drones, and probably 15 to 20,000 or more missiles. Those things are precision guided. They're going to get through, and they're going to target wherever we are, whatever we do. So I hope that he sticks with his opposition to the use of ground troops, because I just don't see any payoff for their use in this setting at all. And I think we'll lose a lot unnecessarily. But we don't know what the great men that make these decisions are saying. And remember, President Trump is the sort of man that if he hears something he likes, he leans over right away and says, oh, yeah, I like that, without understanding what he really was told. And so I don't know what Special Operations Command is saying. I don't know what the various service chiefs are saying. I don't know what the CENTCOM commander, Admiral Cooper, is saying. Who knows? And I would be very careful about all these things in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I think some of what they print is probably true. But unless you were in the room and you not only heard what was said, but you could see the people saying these things, you can't really pass judgment.